My 32 female family takes an annual trip, and for years now, we alternate who pays. This year is my year. I dated a guy for 2 years, and let's just say he was incredibly toxic, and I'm in a much better mental state because he's out of my life. My brother, 22, is gay and has been in a relationship for 6 months, but hasn't introduced his boyfriend to us. This is odd because we'd met as previous boyfriends. As the weeks and months went on, I started to ask constantly why I couldn't meet his new boyfriend. I began to worry it was some insane age gap between them or something. Yesterday, my brother jokingly took my phone and ran off, so I jokingly took his phone, which he'd left unlocked. I got curious and looked at his pictures. I saw pictures of my ex, and I was confused why he would have pictures of my ex smiling. Then it hit me. I thought my ex was straight, so I needed confirmation. I unblocked him on Instagram to see tons of pictures of him and my brother, clearly in a relationship. I confronted my brother about it and he said, "I'm sorry. This is why I didn't want to tell you. I didn't intentionally try to date him. He started hanging out with a friend and it went from there. I really care about him, and you know he's hot. Ha ha." Since I'm paying for the trip, I'm uninviting my brother. Along with him, my family thinks I'm wrong for this. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. I don't blame you for not wanting to vacation with your brother. It's not like he's seeing a man you had a fling with. You were in a 2-year relationship with this person. That's a major betrayal. Your family wants you to sweep it under the rug for the sake of peace. But this is the type of behavior that gives you grounds to go full no contact with your brother if you want it. Don't let other people manipulate you into thinking that you're wrong for having an emotional reaction to this. Not only did he break your trust and date an ex behind your back, he's bringing toxicity back into your life. That's not someone I'd want to spend a vacation with, let alone pay to do it. He knows he's in the wrong. How did he think this would go? Did he just hide who he was dating forever? That you'd just get over it eventually? Also, the fact that he pointed out he was hot just adds a layer of superficiality. So he's willing to mess up his relationship with you because your ex is hot? Exactly. It was a toxic 2-year relationship that apparently caused quite a bit of mental distress for OP. She finally gets rid of him, and now he's back with her brother? My first read is that he's dating your brother to mess with you. What kind of age is compatible with 32 and 22? And he posts pictures on Instagram? Of course he wants her to find out. They started dating after the ex suddenly started hanging out with a friend of the brother. He was toxic then, and he's toxic now, using the brother to get to OP. I'd do more than just cut your brother from the trip. I'd cut him from my life. The betrayal's unreal. And if your family's mad at you, they don't have to come either. Go on your own and protect your peace. I disagree. OP, your brother's wrong for all of that, but you should continue the tradition and refrain from disinviting him. I'm more worried for your brother than anything else. There's a 10-year age difference between you and your brother. So was he actually privy to all of the details about your relationship and subsequent breakup? Since he would have been a teenager when you started dating this guy. How old were you all when you were dating this guy and broke up? Your ex is using your brother to get to you. He could have dated any guy, but he dates your brother? You said the relationship was toxic. He might be doing this to provoke you or to hurt you and your family. I'm sorry your ex is an idiot, but your brother's a fool. I love my wife very much. She's a smart and capable woman who leaves me in the dust in most categories. However, my wife cannot cook at all. She burned water once. She was boiling water for rice and had oil in it. She got distracted and the water boiled off. Then the oil caught fire. Then she threw water on it and nearly burned her parents' house down. She can follow instructions on microwave food. She can use the microwave to reheat leftovers. That's about it. Her mom and dad gave up trying to teach her. Now, I love cooking. I enjoy making tasty meals from scratch when I have the time. One of my go-to meals is fried chicken thighs and waffles. I use my dad's waffle recipe, and they come out light and crispy. Perfect. I don't always make them though, because it takes time. I cheat sometimes and use premix. They're heavier and kind of floppy, not crisp. So I was making breakfast yesterday, and the kids were at the table. I've got the chicken going and I'm making waffles. It's a good morning. My wife decided to help and covered the waffles in foil so they stayed warm. They did. They also steamed and got soft. So I finished making myself a waffle, served my food, and left the kitchen. She can finish everything off. She does this constantly. I'll be making steaks and I'm resting them, and she throws them back on the grill to keep warm. I'll have the chicken fully cooked and tender, and she'll turn up the heat and dry it out, just to make sure. I am sure. She approached me yesterday for the 50th time and asked why I always walk away when she tries to help. I explained for the 50th time that I enjoy making good food, and that her help is almost always universally detrimental to the meal I'm trying to make. She thinks I'm an idiot for caring so much about how the food feels and tastes. She can do whatever she wants when it's her turn to cook. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. How many times should you explain that food is meant to be a certain way? I'm not a cook, but I think she would drive me crazy. Too many hands in the kitchen winds up making the chef angry. Let's be clear, she's not trying to help. She's just interfering. If she legitimately wanted to help, she would come into the kitchen when you're cooking and say, "How can I help?" and listen to your responses and follow through. But she doesn't want to be helpful. She wants to control some aspect of what you're doing. So she interferes with your process every single time, even if it literally means making the food significantly less tasty. And then she defends herself with this ridiculous argument that you shouldn't care how the food tastes, which is about as illogical as it gets. Gently, I would suggest that your wife needs therapy to figure out why she just can't ask you how she can be helpful, but rather needs to interfere anytime you try to cook. Is she jealous that you're a better cook? Does she have control issues in general? Because something's going on here. My parents agree with my wife and think I'm in the wrong, but I want to know if this is really true. I'm male, 27, and my wife, 25, have recently bought a 3-room apartment. We decided that one room would kind of be like an office room for both of us. Around a week ago, she had to go on a business trip for only a few days, so I decided to use that time to fix the room to my liking. Since I play video games, I have figures of some characters in games, etc. While renovating, I put a shelf full of those figures together with some other stuff. I left exactly half the space of the room for her to do whatever she would like. When my wife came back, she was furious that I didn't tell her about me renovating the room and that it destroyed the formal office kind of theme. She already had a picture of how she wanted the room to look, and I guess I destroyed it for her. I told her I could buy a green screen so that the background wouldn't be of my desk when she had online meetings, but that didn't work out for her, as it would take up too much space. I told her I wouldn't change how my desk looked, and if she didn't like it, she had to have other solutions for it. It became a big argument between us when I told my parents about it. They were on her side, saying I should throw away my stuff and start being more mature. That kind of hit me since that stuff costs way too much to just be thrown away. Am I the idiot for renovating the office without discussing it with my wife? But this is an office, not a gaming room. You waited till she was gone to turn it into your gamer cave in the house that both of you share. She lives there too. She works there too. Her input matters, and you knew she wouldn't like it, so you tried to be sneaky about it. Dude, you don't live alone. Doing this without your wife's input makes you the idiot. Such a selfish way to go about this. To my liking means you know it was a one-sided move. She needs a professional-looking background if she's holding meetings in that space. That's not her being controlling. That's her setting a fair boundary for what she wants for her space. You going over her head makes you an idiot. It's an office, not a gaming room. Do you expect to be loudly playing your video games in there while she's in meetings? LOL at this guy thinking shared space to mean literally, you get half, I get half, like a line drawn down the middle of a room in a sitcom. OP, you and the wife are not on the same page. How can you share a marriage, a house, let alone a single small office if you can't do that? I've been seeing my fiance for 4 years now, And I came into the relationship with 2 boys. My boys are now tween and pre-tween. Once a year, the boys and I go to my family's vacation home with the entire family. And up until this year, my fiance did not attend. But now that we're engaged and merging families, the family asked that he come too. They all get along great with him anyways. I explained to him before we went to our family retreat that my kids do not have a bedtime during the week stay with the family. We do a lot of night activities, such as night swimming in the pool, karaoke, fires, nightly strolls through the neighborhood, etc., etc. So during this week, my kids absolutely do not have a bedtime, and this is how it's always been. I made it clear that bedtime was not to be enforced like it was at home, because this is a vacation and time with family, and I'm not making my kids miss out on the nightly activities. I also explained that due to this, some nights they're up until easily 11 or midnight. It's once a year, so it's no big deal. So he's fully aware. And please note that this is the only time I've seen this side of him that I'll mention below. We get here the first night, and you can tell he's already uncomfortable with the boys staying up past their bedtime. He was stressing out because the boys were still in the pool at 10 p.m., and he felt that they should be in bed already. I reminded him at least twice that we were not enforcing a bedtime here, and he let it go the first night. The second night, 9 p.m. rolls around, and the boys were still up, and my fiance was dropping comments like, "You're lucky you're even still awake right now. You should be in bed," saying it right in front of my mom, who looked mortified that he had such an attitude. I told him to cut the crap in private. He tells me he thinks it's messed up and that it's going to be terrible trying to get them back on their schedule. Never been an issue in the years prior. I stood firm and told him to knock it off and let it go. But then last night, my fiance started angrily sighing every single time he looked at my kids still awake, and I finally pulled him aside and told him he was an embarrassment because he kept saying these comments in front of my family, which led to awkward silences and judgmental glances my way. I warned him prior to coming here that if he had an issue that he couldn't control for a week, then he needed to leave because he was ruining our trip with his passive-aggressive BS surrounding a bedtime. He told me I'm an idiot for making him feel like garbage over wanting to keep the kids on a schedule because it's, quote, best for them. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Is this the first time the power dynamic is completely shifted to you? You're in your home court now. It's your rules, your dynamic, your family. You have all the power here. Now, for most people, this isn't an issue at all. It's barely noticeable or notable. But this guy clearly simply can't handle the fact that he's not in charge here. It's eating at him to the point of irritability. I'm sorry, but this is him showing you who he really is. Reflect on this. Where else have you seen his control issues, but you dismiss them? They're there all around you. I think the biggest concern here is the remarks to the children. The way he was undermining you to them and being passive-aggressive with them probably made them feel really uncomfortable. I think you should check in with them about how they feel about him and really listen to them. This may not be the first time he's tried to exert control with them behind your back. Yep, the mask is slipping. This is a critical point. OP says she's never seen this side of him before. She probably has, but she just didn't recognize it for what it was at the time. She needs to do a serious review of their time together and see how many times she's given in or gone along with his wishes to keep the peace. Because once the ring is on her finger, all bets will be off. Seen this story one too many times, unfortunately. Update. Thank you all. However, I've noticed a lot of conflicting opinions on his parenting versus mine in the past, such as he pushes modesty to the highest degree possible and has issues with me walking around in a sports bra, or the fact that he feels the boy should have to ask permission to eat the snacks that I purchased for them. I don't agree with that either, and there really was no compromise made there because he absolutely hates that the boys have an open door policy on my fridge. He also hates that I allow them to have drinks right before bed because then they're up using the bathroom. So now that I mention it, there have been a lot of issues that I've overlooked in the past and turned a blind eye to. but usually he does pull me aside and bring up the issues in private, whereas while we've been here, he's just pushing his passive aggressiveness off in public like he should be the decision maker. On Valentine's Day, I got 2 large pizzas for my family to eat, and then I went to work. When I got home from my night shift, I went into the fridge and saw that there was still half a pizza left. I warmed up 3 slices for my supper and watched some TV with my cat while I ate. My son, 22, got up before I went to bed and looked in the fridge. He got upset that I'd eaten the food he planned to take for his lunch. There's lots of other food in the fridge. He said he told his mom that he was taking the pizza for lunch and that I was greedy for eating it. I asked him if he would be greedy for taking the pizza for lunch, and he got cranky and left. My wife woke up when she heard us arguing. She said that he had asked her and she said yes. I said, "Great, where's my dinner then?" She said she didn't make me anything since there were leftovers. I asked her what leftovers, and the light bulb went off in her head. She said she was sorry for not making me dinner. I told her it wasn't her fault. There were leftovers. My son came back into the room and started arguing again that he had already claimed the leftovers for himself. This is where I might be the idiot. I asked him how much he had paid for the food. $0. How much he paid in rent? $0. Utilities? $0. We're letting him live here so he can save money while he's in college. But I'm sick of this entitled little jerk. I told him if he had a problem with me eating his leftovers, maybe he should move out so he could have his food safely stored away from me. Then my wife says I'm taking it too far. But he backed down pretty quickly and said no, that he was sorry for saying anything. My wife says I'm being an idiot for scaring him by kicking him out over some leftover pizza. I'm not. I'm making sure he knows the best way to keep the food that I paid for safe from me is to live elsewhere and buy your own food. Am I the idiot? He has a job. We're letting him stay here so he can save money. We're paying for his college. He doesn't help out with anything except chores around the house. His leftovers? Excuse me? Leftovers are only leftovers when everyone has had their share of the meal. Your retort to him about what bills he pays in the house is pretty spot on, and something any parent I know would say. Sucks being on the receiving end of that quip, but it's valid. Your wife sounds like an enabler and is just as selfish as your son if she allows him to claim half a pizza for his lunch after you went without. He does sound like an idiot. Sorry you have to deal with him. Exactly this. It's not leftovers if everyone hadn't eaten. It's still dinner. My daughter did something very similar with pizza in the fridge. She was saving it for her breakfast the next day. She threw a massive fit because her dad had eaten it for a midnight snack. Now, she's 4 years old, not 22. This is way too funny. I'm going to say not the idiot. If he wanted to save the pizza for himself, he should have labeled it or packed it up already. He's living there for free, but he thinks it's okay to call you greedy for having some leftover food you paid for? One thing though, you are a grown person and you can make yourself something to eat for supper if there are no leftovers. I warmed up 3 slices for supper and watched TV with my cat while I ate. The man's just trying to enjoy a quiet dinner with his cat after a 12-hour shift and has to deal with his shiftless son's ridiculous entitlement. Geez, I hope the cat got some pizza too. I, 27 female, gave birth to my husband's 31 first child almost 2 months ago. She's a perfect little girl, and I was so excited to have my family meet her. I have 3 older sisters who all have kids as well. A fun tradition that my family does is to have small get-togethers once the baby's about 2 to 3 months old. We don't announce the baby's name until after the birth to make it a surprise. At the little party, we give the parents a bunch of little gifts with the new baby's name. My grandmother always quilts a beautiful baby blanket and embroiders the baby's name. She's done this for all of my sisters and cousins. The issue is the name my husband and I chose for our daughter. For context, my grandma has a unique history with her name. She was born Lucille, but from the time she was 8, she told everyone she met that her name was Barbara. She did this for years until even her family called her Barbara. She even got her name legally changed. As a child, I always asked her why she changed it. She said she liked Barbara better. It became a family joke, but she never seemed upset about it and always laughed with us. My husband's grandmother raised him from when he was a baby to when she passed away when he was 19. Her favorite celebrity was Lucille Ball. She and my husband used to watch I Love Lucy all the time together. He misses her very much and said he would love to honor her somehow. Her name was Mary, but we chose to have that as our daughter's middle name. We decided that Lucy is a name we both loved and would honor his grandmother and maybe make mine chuckle a bit. After I gave birth, my husband and I were FaceTiming my entire family when we announced the name. A few of my relatives laughed and said it was cute, but my grandma was dead silent. When I asked her what was wrong, she demanded to know why I chose Lucy. I was shocked and confused. I began to try and explain, but she suddenly hung up. This significantly dampened the mood. My grandma wouldn't answer any calls from me afterward. I asked my oldest sister, and she said my grandma was offended and thought we were mocking her. She said she's not coming to the party in a few weeks to meet my daughter in person, and that she's not giving the baby quilt to us unless we apologize and change our daughter's name. I don't know why it's escalated so much. My grandma's always been kind. I'm still trying to figure out what to do. Births in my family are always celebrated and happy events, but this has ruined it. I almost feel like some of my relatives are ignoring me because they don't want to pick sides, but I don't even understand why there's a fight. Dealing with this, along with my newborn, has been incredibly stressful. My family's puzzled as well, but most of them are saying I shouldn't have chosen a name I knew my grandmother disliked, or at least I should have asked her about it first. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You can name your child whatever you want. Honestly, for your grandma to make such a big deal over something that has zero significance to anyone but her, to the point of punishing you and her grandchild, is malevolent, childish, and downright mean. You have two choices. Change your child's name to appease a woman who won't even explain and won't be around long, or name your child what you want and not have a quilt or goodwill from your grandma. It could be that your grandma will settle down in time, but perhaps she won't ever. So I have a similar story, but it's about my name. My grandpa had a sister who had been abused by their parents and suffered terrible mental health, and my grandpa cared for her until he had to go to World War II. She chose to go away while he was on duty. He never said her name again. My grandma never knew she ever existed. It was simply too painful for him. Well, I was born many decades later, and my parents tell my grandparents my name, which by chance is his sister's name, and my grandpa had what looked like a stroke and went catatonic and was in the hospital. The story comes out, but by this time, my name is announced, everyone knows it, etc. Grandpa was in his 80s. He couldn't really process his trauma. The workaround in my family was my grandpa chose a name for me. It was added as a middle name, and everyone on my mom's side of the family called me by that name in my grandpa's presence. When I was little, I was told my mom's family used my Norwegian name, while my dad's family used my Irish name. When I was a bit older, I was told the full story. Grandpa and I were very close, and although he never called me by that name, when he was dying and mentally not all there, he called me Little Bird and Darling Sister. So while he couldn't bring himself to say her name, the fact that I had it made him identify with me in a special way. Honestly, no idiots here because it's clear your grandma has some deep trauma, but you did nothing wrong. Wow, mate, that cuts deep. Hugs to you. It's a heart-wrenching story with a good solution for the OP. Use Mary or another name till Grams passes. My own grandmother did not speak to my mother for 6 months over my name. Sorry to hear of this situation for you. I can only say time will heal it in the long run. My ex-wife and I divorced 6 years ago. We married really young. She's very religious, and there was extra pressure from her family to marry. I was young and dumb and had just left the military with no sense of direction. We were very different, but it didn't come out as we had only dated for 8 months before marrying. It all felt very romantic to marry after such a short time, but after we wed and moved in together, it was clear we weren't a good match. We stuck it out for 8 years, but it wasn't working, and we were both older, so the whole thing of living miserably to make other people happy, her and my parents, didn't appeal anymore. I don't blame her for any of it. I think we just didn't understand what we wanted at that time and did things to please other people. We had an amicable divorce, and our son lived with her until high school. He's with me for high school because we live near a top school, and she lives in a small town without a good high school. He's supposed to spend summers and holidays with her and come here during the school year. My ex-wife got diagnosed with cervical cancer last month, and it was caught late, so it's already spread. The long-term survival rates aren't great, and I want my son to visit his mother in a week or two before she goes through her hysterectomy. My vacation renews every June 30th. I had saved 2 weeks to go to Hawaii this winter break. However, with this situation, I want to take a week or two to go with my son to be there for him. His mom won't be able to cook and clean for him, and he also wants me to drive them up to the next city to visit his grandparents. The other issue is my son might have to stay with us for this winter break. He is supposed to go to his mom's, but it's unlikely now, depending on her treatment schedule, and I don't want to go on vacation with him home alone with this happening. My girlfriend is not happy because we have winter break set up to go to Hawaii, and our flights have been booked. I called the airline and they said they could switch our flights to a later one for $600, which I offered to cover so we could rebook the vacation for next fall instead. But she thinks my son should be able to return alone and thinks I'm wasting my vacation going with him when we already have plans. My son does go on flights by himself. He's mid-teens. However, this time my ex isn't going to be physically able to take care of my son. There are also a lot of things to be done and prep for my son and my ex before she goes through chemo and surgery. My girlfriend's upset that I'm prioritizing my ex over her, but I see it as going because my son might lose his mom. Oh wow, your current girlfriend is cold and heartless. Not the idiot. You're doing the right thing by your son. He will experience tragedy, and your girlfriend's more concerned about her vacation plans. She's jealous of a dying woman? I cannot imagine being so insecure that I pout over my partner wanting to be there for his child during such a difficult time. I'd be proud to be dating someone so caring and compassionate. You need to ask yourself if this woman is really who you want to be with, especially since you have a son to think about. Do you really want to date someone who's this callous to your kid? Reframe this in your head. You are prioritizing your son's needs over your girlfriend's wants. You would be a terrible parent if you didn't prioritize your son's physical and emotional well-being while he's in the process of potentially losing his other parent. Any partner who doesn't understand that and support your being there for your son is not a partner worth having. Rebook for next year and try to find a better girlfriend to bring with you on the rebooked trip. Or better yet, bring your son with you instead. My wife and I have been married for about 2 years and have been renting our entire time together. We've talked about buying a house together in the future, but the problem is that she can't save money. We live in a 2-bedroom apartment because she needs one as her walk-in closet. She has the newest iPhone, Apple Watch, AirPods, and AirPods Max. She just bought herself a Tesla while I drive a 2015 Honda. Don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. In fact, I'm perfectly okay with her spending her money because we're both young and she deserves to enjoy her life. Recently, her aunt announced that she'll be moving into a retirement community and will be selling her house. Since they're close, she offered to sell it to us before listing it. She wants $75,000 down and will finance the purchase for us. Honestly, it's a good deal, but the problem is my wife has less than $500 saved, so I'll have to pay the entire $75,000. The monthly payments for the house will be more than our rent, so I'll have to cover the difference as my wife can't pay more. Then there's the yearly $6,500 in property tax, which I'll have to pay for myself. Lastly, the house needs a new roof, which will cost $18,000. She and her aunt were talking about this like it was a done deal, but all I see is a bunch of money I have to pay out all on my own. I told her Friday that we should pass on this one. She kept saying what a great deal it was and that we had always planned on getting a house to start a family. After hours of discussions, I got tired and told her we would get a house when she got past her spending phase and started the saving phase. I pointed out all the above-mentioned costs, and she was hurt. She cried and said that we were supposed to be a team, then went to bed. She hasn't spoken to me since Friday night, and we were supposed to go to her parents' house for dinner tonight. Her aunt will be there, and I know the house thing will come up. Am I wrong for not wanting to buy the house myself? Edit. I'm 29 and she's 25. We both work full-time. She makes about $85,000, and I make about $150,000. Our rent is $1,300 a month. A Tesla? With $500 to her name? For the love of God, open your eyes. Sir, there's no other way to say this. You've chosen a wife very, very, very imprudently. This woman will lead you to financial ruin before you can even believe it. You're enabling someone who thinks she's entitled to live beyond her means at any cost, even if that means she'll drag you down with her. This is someone who doesn't understand the concept of self-regulation or telling herself no. She lives for instant gratification. You'll end up in a mountain of bills you'll never be able to dig yourself out of. You will be a slave to creditors, collection agencies, etc. That'll be your fate. Do with that what you will. This. OP also. Please keep checks on her debts. A debt taken by your SO during marriage will become your debt. For some reason, I feel that she's headed in that path to fund her lifestyle, if not already there. Some people don't reach the saving phase ever, as they're just very materialistic and connect happiness with possessions. It won't change ever. We're supposed to be a team? Look in the mirror, lady. Her out-of-control spending has made her not a team player. She's not mature enough for the responsibility of owning a home. Someone who pays extra rent for a 2-bedroom apartment to use one of the bedrooms as a walk-in closet is not in a financially healthy headspace. If your wife wants the house, she can sell her Tesla to pay her share of the down payment. Update. Am I the idiot for not wanting to buy a house with my wife? Her aunt got several quotes on the roof. The roof is old, not damaged, so insurance won't cover it. I've never owned a house, so I don't know how it works, but that's what she told us. There are other things the house needs, but the roof is the immediate need. The insurance guy said it needs to be done before the current coverage runs out, and they offer new coverage. Aunt went to a realtor and had the house appraised. She offered to sell to us below the appraised price and finance without any interest, which is why I said it was a good deal. Her aunt wants $75,000 down because she'll use that money to move into the retirement community. She said the house was appraised at $400,000, but she'll sell it to us for $350,000 and wants us to pay it off in 10 years. The monthly payment will be about $2,300 a month. My wife and her aunt came to these figures based mainly on how long her aunt expects to be active and wants to use the money to travel and enjoy life. At dinner, my wife and her family told me what a great deal this is. I have zero experience buying a house, but I didn't really argue with them. I calmly told them that I wanted an independent appraisal so that we could have the full financial information. They said the realtor already told them how much it's worth, and they have the tax appraisal. As some of you advised, I stuck to my guns and said I wanted a professional and independent appraiser. I also told them I would call my older brother and have him fly out here to help me because he has experience while I have none. They agreed, and things went smoothly after that. We're sleeping in the same bed again, and she's happy I'm seriously considering the house. Tomorrow I'll find an appraiser and we'll see what happens. OP, please be careful. I suggest getting a postnuptial agreement if you don't already have a prenup. Your wife and her family are giving major red flags. If you want to buy a house, don't go for the aunt's house, because if the roof is so old it needs fixing, then a lot of other things also need fixing. They are giving major red flags. Run from this deal. That house will be the death of your finances and you. I am 22 female in college, but I work as a babysitter after school. I've been working with this mother since I was 20, and she never complained about me. Her kids loved me. That's why I stayed with her for 2 years. I have a friend who was asking me what it's like to work with children. I said it was fine, not great, but not bad. Children can be tiring. You just have to control yourself and don't let tantrums get under your skin. It's going to be fine. I cited though, even though I'm a person who generally doesn't love children, I still had the job for 2 years with 0 complaints, which is proof that I know how to deal with kids and how to throw away my personal feelings when it comes to work. I told my friend that through text, and I was just giving her my raw experience and opinion. I was at the lady's house 2 weeks ago and left my phone charging but got no notifications from that friend. The lady was still home and noticed my phone getting bombarded with notifications, so she, for some reason, opened it. I guess she knew the PIN code because I sometimes give the kids my phone to play a little bit. She took screenshots from the chat, airdropped them to herself, and then left. I didn't realize that until my duty was finished, and I went home, seeing that she hadn't sent me the payment yet. I waited till it was late, then I texted her, but she sent me the screenshots, saying that I'm an awful human being who hates children. I don't deserve money, and she doesn't want to see me in the house again. I already found a new job, but my friend told me I should report this lady for refusing to pay me, especially since she waited to fire me after I finished work to benefit from my presence as much as she could. Also, nowhere did I say I hated her children specifically or did anything to them. Neither can she prove it over 2 years because it never happened. Not the idiot. I'm glad you'll never work for her again, because anyone who would go through your phone without your permission is a real problem. Anyway, you need to get paid for services rendered, and hopefully the texts speak for themselves and don't make you look like she's trying to portray you, and that'll be clear to anyone who sees them. I hope this doesn't have any lingering effects on your ability to work for another family. Sue her in small claims and spread the word to any nannies or enterprising college kids that you might know that she doesn't pay. She violated your privacy, stole your time by forcing you to continue work when she had no intention of paying, and stole your already earned money, just like she had reached into your wallet. Excuse me? Report to whom? Who exactly do you plan to report her to? Was the work through an agency? No. That will not be worth your time spent and the possibility of missing classes. Just move on. Small claims court filings aren't worth the $20 you'd get from a night of babysitting, or whatever this pays nowadays.